Chapter 21 Decker's Journal 1. When Jacob heard this hollow sound, his eye lit up. He knew very well this kind of sound could only be made when you hit something empty inside. He quickly started to press the area, and his finger suddenly pressed something before a small trapdoor opened, revealing 1 cubic meter compartment. Jacob's eyes fell on two things. One was a green book, while the other item also looked like a thin book shape, but it was carefully wrapped around a tattered gray cloth. Jacob first picked up the thick book with a blank green cover and ignored the old gray cloth folding. Jacob finally opened it and read the first page. Decker Shaw Journal. A proud alchemist of Shaw family of imp goblin race. Jacob cocked an eyebrow, seeing the words goblin and alchemist, and thought, "So, I fell in the hand of a goblin, huh? No wonder this guy looks so hideous, and he's even an alchemist, which also explains his experiments." Jacob turned the page and saw an introduction that read, "My name is Decker Shaw, and this is my journal about my research on special physiques of different races living on the zodiac plains. Zodiac plains are rumored to be endlessly vast, and there lived many species in this vast plain. There are 5 known regions of zodiac plains. The first, common races region, where live ordinary animals and that vast forest. But no one seemed to care about this region since there's nothing extraordinary about it. The second is the uncommon races region, where intelligent life forms live without special physiques, bloodline, or talent. This region is also completely ignored and left alone to rot. The third region, where I'm from, is the rare races region. This region is very popular because of the special races that live here, with many special physiques and bloodlines. The fourth region, rarer races region, is the home of rarer grade races with supernatural strength and many special bloodline abilities, which made the races of this region extraordinarily proud and arrogant. They look down at us. True bastards, indeed. The fifth region is very mysterious and called the epic races region. We simply didn't have the qualification to know about this region because those bastards from the rarer races region completely blocked any kind of information about epic grade races. They're faithful dogs. But the widely known factor about the epic grade race is they possessed something called magic, which I have no idea what it is, but those bastards of rarer races region were extremely fearful of it. Jacob's heart couldn't help but beat wildly when he read to this point. This literally confirmed his guess about magic. Although Decker's introduction was too vague about magic, Jacob had read fantasies about magic. He knew what this word represented. Absolute power. He could also understand why those arrogant people of the rarer races region were so afraid of people from the epic races region. He quickly continued to read as he flipped to the next page. Just this first page revealed many things to him. The races of zodiac planes are divided into ranks or grades according to the regions they're born in: common, uncommon, rare, rarer, and epic. There are different professions as well, and they're also divided into the same grades. I'm an apothecary alchemist, a unique profession in our imp goblin race, and I love to experiment with living things of different races. Jacob couldn't help but sneer at this point and mumble, "Sick bastard." After that, he sat down and continued to read, completely forgetting about the other thing. He also discovered that this book was written by Decker from a very young age, as he could imagine his enthusiasm and vigorous words. It didn't sound like the cruel Decker of the present. Jacob found there were many experiments noted and some formulas of medians Decker created after a long string of experimentation. This also revealed a lot of information, but Jacob wasn't interested in Decker's alchemy research, nor could he understand it entirely because he had no clue about the alchemy of this world. Decker seemed to be an extremely high-level alchemist as well. This book could be said to be an encyclopedia for the apothecary alchemists, and no alchemist would reveal their research to another quickly, not to even their apprentices. This was simply Decker's life work. Jacob quickly turned page after page about alchemy. He knew this book would be beneficial if he decided to become an alchemist, but now he was interested in the information. As Jacob turned page after page, the writing became more refined and mature and exempt from young Decker's bullshit, while his experiments also became longer and longer. Jacob finally decided to just see to the end since this book was 8 inches thick and almost complete. He wanted to know what kind of experiment Decker was doing on him before he took over this body. He finally found the last entry, which was about his blood change result. Decker left it empty, which meant he was going to write it after checking Jacob's blood analysis report, but it never happened. Jacob turned back many pages, and after turning back over 100 pages, he saw a note which wasn't about an experiment and read it. Today, a rarer race, the mountain giants, approached our imp goblin race. They wanted to hire some apothecary alchemists for an expedition inside the rarer races region. This was clearly a death mission since everyone knew we'll be killed right after this expedition, just so those bastards could keep this a secret. But we have no choice and can't reject their request, just like always. I was chosen with others by my arch-rival for this death mission, who had become an elder of the Elder Council because of his top talent, and he finally decided to get rid of old me. His name is Loop, and he's a hypocrite, scheming bastard. He had taken advantage of my research many times and gained that position that rightfully belonged to me, but alas, I was just too trusty and blindly trusted him since I was already busy with my research, and now he wanted to get rid of me once and for all, so I could not get in his way anymore. But I will not leave this book. I will take all my research to the grave, and if you're reading it, then this means I'm dead, so this is your luck you found this book, and I have no hard feelings toward you. Chapter 22 Decker's Journal 2. But I will not leave this book. I will take all my research to the grave, and if you're reading it, then this means I'm dead, so this is your luck you found this book, and I have no hard feelings toward you. Jacob's eyes narrowed when he read Decker's note, which was more like a letter before death. Since he continues to write, then this means he managed to escape alive from that expedition. Also, it was clear that he was hiding here from someone, which means he either ran away from his clan or those mountain giants. Or he somehow survives that expedition, and the other died, which also meant he can't show his face ever. Jacob considered many other such scenarios where Decker had no choice but to hide like a rat. He turned to the next page and read. He was astonished when he was a large string of ha ha ha. And half the page was filled with this ha ha. Furthermore, he became more curious, and reading the words after that made laughing. I managed to escape alive from those scheming bastards, and not only did I manage to run, I even stole that small treasure box they unearthed from the misty abyss. But I know I can't go back anymore, and they might even massacre my entire race because of me. But I don't care about those tribesmen in name who suppressed everyone they deemed a threat to their position. It's even better if they killed all of them. Ha ha ha. But I have to say I really pulled the wool over those big idiots and tricked them with this treasure. This will also teach them a big lesson to never look down upon a goblin. Jacob nodded slightly when he seemed his guess was correct and read to the next page. I come to one of my hideouts in rainy mountain ranges right between the boundary of uncommon and rare races regions. It is the only place where I had set up a facility for my experiment. No one knows about it. After cleaning my tracks, I finally felt relief and turned my attention to the small treasure chest. This treasure chest is ancient and only sealed with a wooden lock and a strange piece of cloth filled with a strange symbol. Nevertheless, I broke it open and found 3 things. An ancient beast skin leather, a pendant that looked like a snake eating its own tail, and a thin book that was carefully wrapped in a tattered grey cloth. The words on this letter were from a very ancient language, which we called rune language. I only had a little understanding since our goblin race is keen on collecting all kinds of knowledge. There were only 2 red words on this palm-size beast skin leather, and I don't know if I translated it correctly, but it means, cursed immortality. I didn't know what the other person was trying to imply by these words, but I didn't see any profound meaning behind them. As for the pendant, it looked highly new without a scratch and vivid, so I know it was extraordinary and kept it. The last thing was that thin book wrapped in the grey cloth. When I unwrapped it, its cover was utterly white without any scratch or decay. If I didn't open the old chest myself, I would never even believe this newly looking book was unearthed. And there were 3 words inscribed with dark ink on its cover, which were also in the rune language, and I was shocked when I translated them. It said, Immortal Making Journal. I thought it was bullshit until I opened it. I don't know if this was my imagination, but the moment I looked at those rune letters, I could instantly understand them, as if I were reading my mother language. The more I read, the more astonished I become. If this journal was real, then one could really archive immortality by following those instructions. But I won't believe it entirely because the instructions in this journal were just too unreal. First, you have to change your heart with a modified heart, and there is only a 1% chance of survival. I will first ensure the authority of those words before I try them on myself. This is just too crazy, but if it is true, I will become a powerful immortal and take revenge on those bastards. Jacob's eyes twinkled like stars when he saw words like immortality and a journal that can make someone immortal. Even though he didn't dare to believe it, his heart couldn't help but beat fast as he closed Decker's journal. He finally got his answer to why Decker was doing these experiments on him and why he was so desperate to succeed. It was all because of this immortal-making journal. Who didn't want immortality? Who didn't want to live an everlasting life? Who can resist such temptation? Only self-righteous idiots. Jacob's biggest wish was immortality, and he didn't want to die this time around. Even in his past life, he tried every single method to prolong his life, even if that was utter bullshit. He didn't believe it before he tried himself. Now a journal was offering direct immortality to him? How could he resist? It's not like he lost anything since he only had 5 or so years to live because of Decker's experiments. In a sense, he was already following the path inscribed on that journal, so he wanted to see if it was really worth it. Chapter 23 Immortal Making Journal. Jacob slowly moved towards the hidden compartment while holding his breath. His eyes were fixed on the grey wrapping. Although he knew this might really be just a sham, he still didn't want to believe it completely and hoped there might be some truth hidden in that journal. Jacob extended his hand, which was slightly trembling from anxiety and fear at the same time. He unwrapped the grey cloth, and a thin white book appeared in front of Jacob's shimmering eyes. This book was 2 inches thin and looked highly ordinary. If he didn't read Decker's journal, he might have thought this was a newly purchased book by him. Moreover, there was a black ink title on the white book cover, which was a collection of strange symbols that he obviously didn't understand. Without any further delay, Jacob extended his hand toward the book. He wanted to see if he could read its contents with no prior understanding of it, just like Decker. If it worked, he had no choice but to believe this book, which he also wanted. But if it didn't, then he could only curse his luck. Because he can't understand any of those symbols on the cover, Decker would never teach him even if he begged. However, the moment Jacob's hand touched the book, his heart jolts thunderously. More accurately, it was not his heart but that mysterious strand of energy that always seemed dormant and completely under Jacob's control. It wasn't just the strand of energy but the dark pendant which he got from Decker, and right now, it was hanging on Jacob's neck, also starting to heat up. Jacob was shocked by this strange turn of events, but he knew it all started when he touched the white book. Any sane person would instantly retrieve their hand, but Jacob didn't. On the contrary, not only did he not retract his hand, he even gripped the book. Jacob's thoughts differed completely from others. Firstly, Jacob deemed this was an opportunity, a life-changing opportunity. Because after controlling that strand of energy for months and circulating it in every part of his body, he knew it wasn't harmful to him at all. Secondly, when he touched the book, that pendant also reacted, and from Decker's journal, he knew this pendant was found with this book, so it gave him even more courage to take this gamble. Thirdly, Jacob now knew this strand of energy was the product of Decker's experiments, according to this book, and since it reacted to his touch, then this meant there was a big reason behind it. Lastly and most importantly, Jacob was a reincarnated person and someone insane for immortality, and as long as he saw hope, he'll do anything to get it, and he saw a big hope in this book. As Jacob gripped the book, he felt the eager sensation from the energy becoming stronger and stronger, as if it wanted to jump out of his chest. As for the pendant, it suddenly started to shift toward Jacob's heart like a pendulum on its own. It was evident for Jacob to guess that it was moving towards the energy, or the energy was making it move towards it. When the pendant finally fixed on the position where his heart was, and also right above the energy strand, Jacob suddenly shrieked in pain. He clearly felt the energy coming out while drilling through his heart. He wanted to clench his chest, but he didn't and endured. He was afraid to interrupt whatever was happening, nor did he let go of the book. Not only that, but he just looked like a lunatic while screaming to avert his pain while continuing to stand still. After 10 seconds, which were like 10 years for Jacob, he finally felt something drilling out of his skin, and he watched as a very thin crimson needle came out of his chest as blood flowed from the small hole. Like a bolt of lightning, that red needle instantly passed through from the hollow pendant and directly entered the white book in Jacob's hand. However, this wasn't the end. The next moment, the white book in Jacob's hand turned into a white streak and entered the black pendant hanging on his neck. Jacob was breathing and coughing heavily as blood trickled down from both corners of his lips, and his chest was also dyed red. A hole in the heart wasn't a joke. Even a small one was enough to kill. However, Jacob's eyes were shining like the sun when he saw what happened, but he also knew he couldn't remain like this, or he might really die. He said in a hoarse voice, "Pig head, take me to your glass cell and activate that black liquid and protect me." Pig head listlessly followed Jacob's command and arranged him inside his own glass cell, which was much faster than Decker's glass cell. Jacob also decided to use Decker's black liquid just in case. He heard Decker saying that this liquid was the highest grade healing liquid he had stored here. After arranging Jacob's body in the glass cell, Pig head pressed a black button which was right inside the glass cell, and afterward, it closed, and light black liquid filled from the bottom. Jacob was almost unconscious because of blood loss, and he only felt a freezing sensation from that black liquid and warmth from the pendant on his neck before he fell unconscious. Pig head remained still outside, protecting Jacob as he commanded. Inside the glass cell filled with black liquid, if Jacob were conscious, he would shock to see the pendant on his chest currently glowing in a white hue as the eyes of the snake were glowing brightly. Suddenly, something emerged from the interior of the snake ring. 2 white lines slowly form from the interior and connect to the opposite side while twisting in a tilde shape and forming a white infinity symbol in the empty interior. Chapter 24: The Truth. In endless darkness, an old man with a tall and bony body was floating aimlessly without any clothes. His wrinkled face was peaceful, while his murky eyes were staring into the dark void without blinking. This old man was none other than Jacob in his actual old frame before his sudden death. So, it was just a dream after all. He thought bitterly, I have really outdone myself in creating such a reality like a dream. Sigh. Death, death, death. I wasn't able to escape you in the end, even in my dreams. Heh. I always wonder, was life so weak that it can't even win against death? Now I got my answer. Life and death. They said they both have 2 sides of a coin. But it's wrong, it's indeed a coin, but you didn't have the luxury to flip this coin because it's constantly flipping endlessly until it eventually fell and stopped. In the end, the side of death always wins. The period it took while flipping is the life which will come to an end, but it still gave false, painful hope that it will fall on the side of life. But the truth is there isn't a life on any side of this coin, only death and misery. Ha 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 ha. At this moment, Jacob's thoughts were suddenly interrupted by an eerily laughter, which frightened him. What? I'm hallucinating again, Jacob thought. That eerily voice spoke this time. Well said, old brat, well said. Equal life and death cycle are just bullshit. There's only endless death and fleeting life. There's just no comparison. Jacob's mind jolted this time. He finally understood he wasn't hallucinating because he could clearly hear this voice inside his head, and he didn't seem to move his body at all. It was the same feeling he felt when affected by the parasite gem, but it was far more horrible. He shouted in his mind. Who are you? The eerily voice playfully replied. What, you already forget that you're the one who awakened me? Jacob's mind trembled when he heard this, suddenly remembered the mysterious white book, and promptly asked, You're the immortal making journal? Ha ha ha. The eerily laugh rang again before it said playfully, That name was just to trick everyone. That's not my true form. Jacob felt a chill all over his body when he heard this and questioned with an unfriendly voice. So it wasn't a dream, but why did you want to trick others? Are you a ghost that wants to possess me? Jacob wasn't an idiot, and he knew if this thing wanted to trick others, then this meant it wasn't something good, so he quickly raised his guard. The eerily voice replied with a hint of disdain. Of course, to find a worthy successor that can inherit me. But alas, those fools can never condense the immortal mark and always end up dying by walking on the wrong path. Jacob was shocked by this sudden realization and asked, So, you're saying that Immortal-making journal was just a big test that no one could pass? Yes, the first two parts, heart-changing and blood-changing, were a kind of test to see if the other could condense an immortal mark which would awake me. But alas, those inferior beings were just too talentless and never able to awake me. Some of them thought these words were empty, and they were afraid to change their heart because it sounded too unrealistic and dangerous. Very few believed my incarnation words and tried it, but almost 99% died because they had a very weak soul. You see, in my endless years of existence, only 10 beings could condense the immortal mark, but those idiots didn't have the courage or patience until I woke up, and they always either threw my incarnation away or didn't wear the infinity pendant. All because they thought I was too suspicious, or when they felt the pain of a mortal mark drilling through their hearts, they become even more determined that I'm harming them. One of them even threw away the infinity pendant once after calling it ugly, and that ugly swine died cluelessly after following my incarnation's third modification. She didn't know the pendant will always return to me, no matter what and where it was. That arrogant swine deserved to die, nevertheless. The last one was even more excessive, and that little lizard even dared to seal me with a ghost-eradicating talisman and then buried me deep underground. That fool was just too damn hateful. It even tried to burn me and then decomposed me. But he has no idea that the great me can't be destroyed even if he awakened his ancestors. Humph. Jacob was completely speechless after hearing such truth and couldn't help but feel this book was just too arrogant and unrealistic. But he has no way to retort it since he knew this book was unearthed by Decca's party and heard its last phase. It was clear it was telling the truth. He also knew this infinity pendant was the same pendant hanging around his neck, and he finally remembered a snake eating its tail was also the ancient symbol of infinity. He couldn't help but ask, then that strand of energy that drilled through my heart was an immortal mark? The eerily voice said with a hint of excitement. Yes. The immortal mark only forms after the modified heart completely resonates with the body and new blood. But your heart not only resonated but also mutated, which was almost unbelievable. That's why your immortal mark was unique, and you could control it at will, and you even managed to open all the meridian channels and acupuncture points of your body with it as well. I must say, you're really something. Not only did you manage to condense the special immortal mark, but you even used to turn the table on that little idiot who would have died just by the first modification. He was just foolishly experimenting on everyone while completely ignoring the fact his body structure differed greatly from others, nor did he know about the soul's strength. Jacob finally understood everything and couldn't help but feel chills when he thought just how this book created such cruel tests to find a successor, and no wonder no one could succeed. Because only crazy people will dare even to consider changing their heart and blood, and then even wait until something is drilled out of their heart. Chapter 25. 1. So, you were watching me? Jacob asked. He was now serene again. Ha ha ha. My incarnation and the infinity pendant are my eyes and ears. I can observe my surrounding with both of them, but I can't interfere with or express my thoughts to anyone without finding a real successor. I was also watching your every action, and must I say you're a lunatic. Not only did you manage to break free from that little slave stone, you even dared to endure the pain of an immortal mark drilling through your heart while gripping my incarnation. I have never seen someone playing with their life like this before. Jacob wryly replied, You don't understand. If you're watching me, you have already seen that device result, and I only have little time to live, so I just wanted to see if I can gain the secret of immortality. Even though there was only a 1% chance that it was true, I'll still take it without any hesitation because now I'll rather die for that 1% chance of life rather than live with a 99% chance of death with a hoax life. Jacob truthfully answered, hiding nothing. Ha ha ha. Only someone who experienced true death can know what I mean to live. Am I right, Jacob Steve from Earth? The eerily voice playfully called Jacob as such. Jacob merely sneered. Hey, yes, you're right. He never even thought for a second that this thing couldn't read his mind or see his memories because this book was just too mysterious and was talking inside his mind. And it was talking about the soul like drinking water. Then it was nothing but simple. Let me ask you then, do you want immortality? It was a simple question, but this time this voice sounded solemn. Jacob suddenly felt this question was as heavy as a mountain, but this was his biggest wish. He will give anything for it, so he answered without any hesitation. Yes. Think carefully, immortality will grant you an endless life, but all those you love or will love will perish one by one, leaving you alone every single time. Think if one day everyone and everything turned into nothingness, and only you remained, you can't even kill yourself. You just had to live with nothing but darkness. Do you still want immortality? It asked again with a solemn tone. Jacob felt a shiver in his spine this time. It's not like he never thought like this before, but immortality was just a legend before as well. But now that he was given a chance, he was forced to think this way and even hesitate. Suddenly, a beautiful face surfaced in his mind, and he remembered a very painful memory that he had buried deep in his mind for decades. I don't want to leave you and my children. But it seems life won't allow it. Just promise you won't forget me, ever. Hope. Jacob quickly recovered and menacingly replied, I don't care about anything as long as I live endlessly, so yes, even if everything turned to dust, I still want immortality. Even if you have to sacrifice everything, kill everyone, destroy everything which comes between you and immortality, will you still want it, even if the price is to become a vicious devil? This voice was icy, like an abyss. Jacob was again momentarily stunned before decisively answering, I don't care, so yes. I'll pay any price. Ha 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 ha. Good, very good. You have resolved to do anything for immortality, and only someone with this kind of resolve can walk the path of an immortal who's willing to sacrifice anything and keep walking forward. The maniacal, eerily laughter rang again with a hint of hysteria. Congratulations, you have passed the third test of absolute resolved, and with this, you have passed all 3 tests and become my first inheritor from time immemorial. Let me officially introduce myself. I'm one of the 9 universal godly scriptures, cursed immortality, and I'm also the only scripture that can grant true immortality. Jacob was shocked. He never thought this thing was still testing him, but he was gobsmacked when he heard the other words. However, he felt remarkably calm. Jacob asked ambiguously, You're saying, beside me, no one can inherit your prowess or become immortal? Cursed immortality replied with a hint of pride. Yes, the 9 godly universal scriptures can only be inherited by a single person. It was impossible to learn until that inheritor died, and I'm the only scripture that grants true immortality. Jacob asked again. Then, I'm an immortal now? No, you're still a mortal and extremely weak one. You have a little over 5 years to live, and you have to change your body according to the real me. Or I don't want to become inheritor-less again. Cursed immortality said, with no hint of anxiety. Jacob only sighed and lamented. Why, I'm not surprised all that talk, and you're still useless. In the end, I have to rely on myself. Cursed immortality sneered. Yes, you're correct, you have to rely on yourself if you want to achieve immortality, and I know you have resolved it, so I'm looking forward to your performance. Now listen carefully. I don't have much time left since the inheritance test is complete. Firstly, in the future, I won't be able to communicate with you freely like this before you complete phase 1. Second, I cannot help you even if you were to die. Remembered, I'm just a scripture, not a weapon. Third, now that you're my inheritor, I'm in my true form, which is living inside the infinity pendant, and that pendant is now bound to you. No one can take it from you, nor will it drop. So you don't have to worry about losing it. Fourth, you can only summon me once a day for half an hour by thinking or calling my name. Fifth, you will only gain access to the knowledge of body transformation phase 1. Before completing it, you won't be able to see the second phase. Sixth, now that infinity pendant has been activated, You'll get 1 cubic meter of storage space. You can store anything living or non-living being inside the infinity pendant as long as it can fit inside. That's all for now. In the future, you'll be able to do far more with infinity pendant as long as you cultivate me to higher phases. Lastly, free advice. Don't throw that beast skin with red letters. It is very useful for you in the future. Chapter 26. 2. Jacob suddenly opened his eyes in bewilderment as he looked around and saw himself in black liquid, and pig face, broad, ripped back, could vaguely be seen. Was it a dream? Jacob thought, but he soon shook his head since it was too vivid for a simple dream and confirmed it since it was straightforward. He looked at the button panel, which was inside the glass cell's top corner, and pressed the button, making the black liquid sink. This cell is probably more advanced than the other one, or it's just that the other cell is for prisoners or something, Jacob mused as he saw his vision becoming clearer. He saw his body and smiled bitterly. There wasn't any chance, except the small hole in his chest was gone entirely, and he didn't feel any pain in his heart. I should be that black liquid, I guess. Jacob nodded in satisfaction before his eyes landed on the pendant, and he was astonished when he saw the white infinity symbol right in the center of the snake circle. Infinity pendant, huh? Jacob touched the white infinity symbol, which was as smooth as jade and spinnable. There was nothing extraordinary about it except its new appearance. No one would believe it if Jacob said it was a treasure. The glass cell slid open at this moment, and Jacob came out with a hint of excitement on his bony face. You can go back and use the blue liquid now. He first excused Pig Head before he got closer to the table. Jacob looked at Decker's journal and placed his hand on it before he thought of storing the book inside the infinity pendant, and the book instantly vanished. Jacob nearly laughed out loud when he saw this was really a storage treasure that he had read about in all those fantasies, which also confirmed that it wasn't a dream. He quickly calmed himself down and again thought of taking the journal out before it emerged in Jacob's hand again. After trying a few more times and getting the hang of it, Jacob stopped playing with the infinity pendant. This storage space is too little, only 1 cubic meter, but I guess I have to do with it now. Jacob thought before he stored Decker's journal inside the infinity pendant again and moved toward the hidden compartment. He removed the grey cloth in which cursed Immortality's incarnation was wrapped and saw palm-size beast skin. He didn't forget cursed Immortality's last advice. Furthermore, he saw some red letters which, according to Decker's journal, spell cursed immortality as well. Didn't that book say no one knows its name? But then why did its name engrave on this beast's skin? And how is it useful to me? Jacob couldn't help but think of this point as he found nothing special about this beast's skin or red letters. According to that book's explanation, it was buried by the last immortal mark-bearer, which was a lizard. This means this book can be inherited by any kind of life form as long as they pass those vicious tests, not just humans, and I'm currently in a world filled with monsters. But is it really as simple as it told me it is? I can't completely take that book's words for truth. It can read my mind, but I can't, but since it still told the truth about the infinity pendant, I guess I have no choice but to believe it. Let's try summoning it now. Jacob also thought before he stored that beast's skin in the infinity pendant. He also stored that bloodline scanning scale inside the pendant since it was essential to him for measuring his lifespan. Jacob sat down on the only chair in the room before he took a deep breath and thought, "Cursed immortality." Suddenly, a white book appeared in front of Jacob, floating in the air. It was slightly glowing in a black hue. Its cover size was 9 by 12 and an inch thick. There wasn't any clue about its spine or pages. It was just like a slate. In the center of it were beautiful crimson words that Jacob could clearly understand despite never having seen them before. Those crimson words spell, "Cursed immortality." Nothing else was on the cover. Jacob was astonished at seeing the floating slate in front of his chest. He couldn't help but try to touch it, and he could and felt this book's jade-smooth cold cover. Jacob tried to flip the slate to see the other side, but it turned like a book cover before revealing a white page in thin air. There were crimson words written on it as well. As for the cover, it vanished into the other side in the air. So, that's what it means when it said it was in its true form now. Does this mean this book is extremely thick that I can't fit in this room? Jacob wondered in astonishment. Truly magical, really. I don't see and feel all this with my eyes and hands. I wouldn't believe it's real. But it still made me worry about just how thick this book is. Won't I die before I complete it and archive Immortality? Jacob wasn't swayed by just befits. His eyes were still on the facts. He sighed before reading the very first page, which was the same size as its cover. Cursed Immortality, Cursed Immortal Physique, 9 phases. Current phase. First phase. First phase. Body transformation. Stages of body transformation. 3. First stage. Cursed heart emergence. Second stage. Compete first stage. Third stage. Compete second stage. Inheritor, Jacob Steve, current stage, 10% of first stage. Jacob's eyes narrowed when he saw the very first page, which revealed little information with much mystery. Why is there cursed everywhere? Jacob finally paid attention to the word cursed, even though this book's name was Cursed Immortality. Before, in his excitement, he paid little attention to it, but now that he did, he felt this book was defiantly now simple, and it didn't reveal everything clearly about itself. Chapter 27 Immortal Mark into Cursed Mark. In the end, Jacob could only sigh because first, he was the one who decided to walk on this unknown path, and second, he couldn't question cursed immortality because it couldn't communicate with him before he completed the first phase, and lastly, even if he got another chance to choose, he'll still choose to walk on this path without any regrets. Jacob flipped the first page, and it vanished to the other side of the air before revealing a new page with new information. It was information about the cursed heart emergence. First phase of body transformation. Cursed heart emergence, first stage. This stage is divided into 3 levels. First level. Formation of immortal mark inside the modify heart, complete. Second level. Turn immortal mark into cursed mark, 1% completion. Description. Please insert different tier 1 or higher species heart essence directly into your heart until the cursed mark is completely forged. Note, a species heart essence can only be inserted once, not again. Third level. Complete second level. Completion of this stage affected in 100 years youthful lifespan. Jacob cocked an eyebrow when he saw the description about the second level of cursed heart emergence, and when he saw the reward of completing it, his heart galloped. Youthful lifespan? Did this mean I won't turn into an old man? Jacob couldn't help but feel moved. Just this first stage effect alone. This made him even more determined to walk on this path, even if he had to go through hell. Jacob tried to turn the page, but no matter how much force he mustered, it won't just budge, and when he tried to go backward, just with a thought, the previous page emerged, and with another thought and page turned again. This also clarified that no matter what, he won't be able to see the other knowledge without completing the previous one. So Jacob gave up and said, "So I have to find the heart essence of other species now and then inject it into my heart directly. No need to circulate anything or mutter any chants or mantras or anything. This is rather convent and simple, but this also means I have to kill them to get that heart essence. But how the hell am I supposed to know this is heart essence? And how would I know if the species is tier 1 or not?" Jacob became extremely perplexed when he thought this book had only given him half-ass information. However, the wording on the second page suddenly changed, and he was astonished when he read it. Tier 1 species are known as the uncommon species in this world. As for heart essence, let me make it precise in your language. After collecting the steam, you can gain heart essence after boiling the heart into the species' own blood inside a furnace at 1000 Celsius temperature. The steam is the heart essence, and you only need 100 milliliter to inject into your heart. Jacob felt goosebumps all over his body when he read it. This meant he had to kill no matter what. He frowned. "So, you can answer my questions?" The wording changed again, and it read, "Only questions related to the scripture." Then tell me, does one species per heart mean an entire race or just a subspecies of that species? If I kill that imp goblin, Then does it mean the entire goblin race will become useless to me, or just the imp goblin race? Jacob's eyes turned cold when he asked this question. The words changed again. Only the subspecies, not the entire species. Simply put, as long as you get the heart blood of the imp goblin race, then you can't get anything out of another imp goblin, but if you get the heart of a vile goblin, then it will work but only once. This also meant you must kill one member of a single tribe until you complete level 2 of Cursed Heart Emergence. Ha ha ha. Jacob felt annoyed when he saw the ha-ha. He could imagine that eerily laughter and pursed his lips and asked again. Then what about youthful lifespan? The words changed again. No old age and guarantee 100 years, as long as others won't kill you. Ha ha ha. Fuck off. Jacob annoyingly replied. He just felt annoyed every time this book spoke. Make the classification of these species clearer, like the requirement for me, is to get at least one species heart essence, but it also said, higher as well. The imp goblin is a rare species, so will I get any benefits for ingesting higher species blood than a requirement or not? Jacob asked another core question. The words changed. So, you're not so dumb after all. Those idiots only classified the species into common, uncommon, rare, rarer, epic, and so on, but the truth is, it's not that simple. Because some species can be more powerful than rare species despite being uncommon because they have the potential to evolve, the rank of species is never evaluated like this. They are divided into tiers. From 1 to 3 tiers can be considered uncommon species with low, intermediate, and advanced levels. From 4 to 6, they can be regarded as a rare species with the same 3 levels. From tier 7 to 9, those tiers suit the rarer species, while the epic species are not classified into tiers. They had a classification of their own, which you don't need to know for now. That imp goblin is from a tier 5 species, but his bloodline is too thin. That's why he's akin to a tier 3. If you really ingest his heart essence, then your progress will naturally be faster though. Jacob's eyes shone with understanding. All in all, as long as I can a higher species heart essence, my progress will be skyrocketed, but how the hell did I know their exact tier? I don't know. It's your problem. But you can ask me by wasting your one chance of summoning me a day, ha ha ha. Jacob frowned. He knew this book could only give him limited help and sighed. With a thought, the book vanished again. He had no more questions and wasn't in the mood to listen to that annoying book's laughter. He threw his head back to the chair, stared at the rotten ceiling, and sighed continually. Likewise, he muttered, a path forged with killing leads to immortality, huh? If it was in my youth, I might probably feel excited about it, but now, I feel nothing but calm. I finally got a way that led to immortality, yet there's nothing but darkness. But deep down, I can never detach myself from this path, no matter what. Jacob closed his eyes, and at an unknown time, he fell asleep on the chair. It was his first time sleeping without fear or anxiety about his life. He finally got what he wanted, but there was still a vast yet cruel price he had to pay for it. Chapter 28 Deadly Hunger 1. After a long sleep, Jacob finally opened his eyes. I fell asleep. Jacob mumbled drowsily. Because of his sitting posture and wooden chair, he felt soreness all over his body when he tried to move. I never thought I miss my wingback chair of all the things. Jacob smiled wryly. Suddenly, he felt extreme hunger as his expression changed because his body started to shudder slightly while his breath became rough. Jacob had no idea that after living on those liquids for so long, his body had become accustomed to them, and this was very dangerous. That was why if anyone used those liquids, they always intake food first so that they won't get addicted to those liquids. But how could Decker care about a slave like Jacob? Decker never considered Jacob would remain alive after his experiments, nor did Jacob anyone important to him. Hence, he left Jacob as it was, and now Jacob was facing a dangerous situation. If he intakes a large quantity of food so suddenly, his condition will become even more serious. At the same time, if he goes back to the glass cell and uses the liquid to stabilize his situation, his body addiction will become even more serious. In the end, Jacob searched for food without even thinking about going back and soaking in those liquids. From the start, he always wondered why he never felt hunger and if this was good or bad. And now, he finally got his answer. Jacob took things from Decker's bags, both old and new. He saw a 6x6 container, which was icy cold, and he quickly put it down since he knew this must be something Decker had bought for the third transplant, and it won't be anything he could eat. The next thing he took out were many glass bottles filled with different color powders and some strange dry plants, which were obviously auxiliary materials that were supposed to mix together with whatever was in that container. Jacob didn't dare to eat those strange plants, so he also put them aside. In the end, the new bag became completely empty, and it seemed Decker only put all the things he needed for the experiment in this bag. I don't believe this guy didn't need to eat. Jacob's condition was becoming increasingly dangerous as he quivered more violently. He quickly picked up the old bag, which was Decker's own bag. He promptly opened its cover and took things out after another. There were 2 old books and 2 small glass flasks which reminded him of the flask of bloodstorming bug. He carefully placed them on the table with lingering fear. Next, he took out a palm-size metallic box, and after opening it, he saw 4 blue capsule-shaped pills and 3 green pills. He clearly remembered Decker's feeding him a blue pill for pain, so he quickly deemed those blue pills as painkillers and didn't know what those green pills were, and he didn't have the luxury to think about it either. He put those pills aside as well. Jacob suddenly saw a hand-sized transparent packet and quickly took it out, and his eyes lit up when he saw dry jerky sticks inside. His hunger was getting increasingly out of control, so he didn't even think about examining it and quickly opened the pack, which was already opened. When a strange smell entered his nostrils, he wanted to vomit his stomach out. Fuck it. Jacob took out a dry jerky stick and tried to chew it, but it was just too damn hard, like a rotten tree trunk. He felt like he was drinking those herbal shakes he used to drink to increase his life, but more terrible. That fucker can't even spend on himself. Jacob cursed Decker while continuing to swallow that jerky like rotten wood. However, Jacob didn't know this jerky was made with very special meat, and it can sustain hunger for 2 or 3 days. And someone like Decker, who remained on foot for most time, this was the best choice for food. Beings like Decker weren't too picky with what they ate as long as they kept living and continued to do their research. Jacob was also like this once, but after he handed over his business to his sons, he completely changed his lifestyle, especially after his wife's death. With his full willpower, he swallowed 2 jerky sticks and stopped. He knew if he tried to swallow any more, he'd throw up. Besides, his hunger was reduced after he ate those jerkies, so there wasn't any need to torture himself any further, for now at least. However, if Jacob knows he just dodged a very lethal bullet by eating those special jerkies, he might even thank Decker as well as strangle him for putting him in such a condition. He saw a bottle of water in Decker's bag and gulped it, and it just tasted like water. Nothing special about it. Finally, alive. Jacob sighed. However, did it was really over? After he felt alive again, he finally looked at the other things in Decker's bag. He found another sealed packet of jerkies, and then he took out a white card. After reading it, he found out it was an identity card that was from Decker's nation. This turned his expression somewhat grave. If this world has identity cards, doesn't this mean their technology is also like my word? But this identity card has no photo or any chip. It looks more like something from the 18th or 17th century. I hope it was the case, or my life would become more complicated if this world had the same advanced civilization as my world. Although Jacob still hasn't come in contact with this world civilization, after he saw those glass cells, colored liquids, the device that can measure someone's lifespan and read Decker's journal, he could guess this world was much more advanced when it came to the medicinal field. He had no idea about the weapons, but the parasite gem was enough proof of this world's strength on its own. As for communication and security measures, he still can't be so sure. Chapter 29 Deadly Hunger, 2. Jacob put Decker's ID card to the side carefully. He knew this could be quite useful, but he also knew it could be quite disastrous since Decker had stolen a treasure chest from a rarer race, so he would not use it if not absolutely necessary. The last thing Jacob found was a small black pouch. Upon grabbing it, He felt it was quite heavy and heard a light, sharp ringing sound as if glass or metal were clashing together. Coins. Jacob opened the small pouch with some anticipation. This was his first time seeing the currency of this world. He upside down the pouch on the table, and small coins landed on the table, making sharp sounds. He saw there were round coins 3 inches in size. There wasn't any engraving or any imprint or brand on these coins. They were all spotless. There were 20 golden, 58 silver, and 21 bronze-colored coins. Jacob did not know the distribution of currency in this world, but seeing the 3 colors, he could already guess the gist of it. I don't know if this guy was rich or poor, but since he was an alchemist, he won't be poor at least. Jacob mused before he placed the coins into the small pouch again, and stored them inside his infinity pendant and the other things, and only left those 2 books and the contents of the extra bag on the table. He was interested in those 2 books since they were worn out. It was clear Decker read them quite often, and this was the reason enough for Jacob to read them as well. Jacob easily read their titles. One was called The Advanced Herbology of Rare and Rarer Plants and Plant Lore. The second was The Rare and Rarer Beast Encyclopedia. Jacob's eyes shone. It was quite clear what these books were about, and Jacob needed this kind of information since he wanted to complete the first stage of the cursed heart emergence. However, just as Jacob was about to read those books, his expression changed because that extreme hunger was back. Just what is going on? Not even 2 minutes passed, and I was hungry again. Did those 2 shit jerkies won't enough? But I clearly felt full after eating them. Jacob became very confused. But he had no choice since this hunger was like it could kill him if he didn't ease it. He again took out the jerky packet he had just stored inside his infinity pendant and ate 3 jerky sticks, despite wanting to puke. He again felt quite full again, but this time he didn't let his guard down and observed if that hunger had come back again or if it was just his imagination. This time 5 minutes passed, and when Jacob thought it was just him being paranoid, the hunger returned stronger than ever. There is something wrong. Even an idiot would find this situation strange and amiss. Cursed immortality. Jacob tried to summon the book to learn about his situation, but it never appeared. Shit, I can only summon it after a day, mean 24 hours, and I don't know how long I've been asleep, but it wasn't 24 hours. So I have to wait. Jacob cursed inwardly before he started swallowing the jerky again. This time he swallowed 5 of them before the hunger went away. Every time this hunger came, I needed to intake more food. Could it be some kind of effect after I live inside that liquid? Or it's related to my extremely strong heart? It's not rocket science. Everyone knows if you put a train engine inside a car, it will explode, and my heart is mutated, according to that damn book. My body is too weak, and if my heart is really like a train engine right now, then I'm really screwed. Jacob's mind reached an astonishing conclusion that he didn't want to acknowledge. If he knew those jerkies he was eating like normal snacks right were enough to keep Decker alive for an entire month, he would become even more assured about his latter theory, while the former hypothesis was quite close to the truth. Jacob wasn't in the mood to read anymore. He clearly knew just how much danger he was in if his guesses were correct. However, he can't just finish his limited ratio until he has a clear view of the situation, and only cursed immortality can shine some light on it. Pig head, come out. In the end, Jacob decided to soak inside the liquid until he could summon cursed immortality again. It was far better than aimlessly wasting his rations. Inside a thick forest with towering lush trees with high humidity. The sky was dark with rain clouds as if the rain would fall at any time. 3 figures were currently moving in this thick forest at this moment. 2 of them were abnormally tall, while one of them was only 1.4 meters in height, and it barely reached the 2 tall persons' kneecaps. All 3 of them wore dark cloaks. One of them spoke at this moment in a husky voice. "Are you sure you saw that thievish goblin in Cloud City?" The voice came from the short person. "Yes, how could I dare to lie to esteemed lords?" Although he was in a cloak. But his sharp pointy nose still somewhat revealed his identity, and after I followed him around for a while, I confirmed it was an imp goblin, and he came in this way. If I wasn't afraid to follow him in this forest and contact my lords first, I might have found his hideout. You did well not to follow him, or you've died. That thievish goblin is too cunning, and if he even got wind of you following him, he'll definitely escape. But now that we are here, let's see where he runs to. Again, the same voice sounded with a hint of hatred and killing intent. Chapter 30 Deadly Hunger 3. You heartless demon. A sobbing voice sounded of a young man filled with bitterness and grief. You didn't even come to her funeral and didn't show any sadness while she was on her deathbed and calling for your name every day. You don't deserve her love. You never loved her. You just left her alone even on her deathbed because of your selfishness. No. Jacob's eyes snapped open, filled with deep sorrow and melancholy. However, when a slimy liquid entered his mouth, he quickly snapped out of his stupor state and calmed himself down. I was dreaming. Jacob thought with deep sadness and yearning in his eyes. Ryan, I let you down and her. Jacob stared into the empty air for a long time without blinking. At this moment, the blue liquid was almost transparent, which had never happened before, while Pig Head stayed inside. This implied the liquid was losing its effect, and Jacob was feeling hungry despite the liquid. But he doesn't care or not even bother to notice it because of his bad dream. In the end, the hunger reached the same level as before and made Jacob snap out of his daze. He came out of the cell. He didn't know just long he's been sleeping or how this liquid worked accurately and for how long. But his killer hunger was not normal, and he knew this had something to do with his change after he inherited cursed immortality. Cursed immortality, Jacob said in a hoarse voice. This time, the white book appeared in a flash. With a thought, Jacob reached the page he could open and said coldly, Tell me what this hunger is about. Does it relate to you? The wording changed, and unfamiliar words appeared. Why are you asking me if you already guessed? You're right about your heart being too powerful for your weak body. But don't worry, your heart was modified according to Great Me and even mutated. So all you have to do is to provide nutrition, and your heart will change your body until it reaches a sufficient standard. Jacob sighed softly. I was right. Tell me just how much nutrition I need before this hunger goes away and my body reaches a sufficient standard. The writing changed. Just drink that bone marrow that little goblin bought for your third implant, and don't forget about mixing all those herbs and powders. It should be sufficient to convert your body to 20%. Jacob frowned. Drink the bone marrow of some unknown animal or monster, but it will only convert up to 20%. Ha ha ha. Don't underestimate a mutated heart. Besides that, 20% is enough for your hunger to alleviate at least half, but only for a few weeks before it comes back more potent, so be prepared. Heed my advice. In the meanwhile, just slaughter that goblin or that pig and inject their blood, and then eat them whole. It should be enough for your body to reach 50%. Jacob wore a weary expression and coldly snorted. Do you really expect me to eat those innocuous fellows? Ha 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 ha. Don't pretend to be noble. The moment the second wave of hunger hits, you'll even slaughter a human to quench your hunger, or you'll die, which I know you will never let happen. Oh, and remember, every time you inject a species' heartblood, your body will also change, which simply means you need to eat or provide high-quality nutrition. And if you are thinking about using those colored waters, then don't bother. They will start to lose effect on you the longer you soak in them since they're not high-quality enough. Jacob frowned his brow as cursed immortality seen through his thoughts. He was really planning to drink that black liquid, but it seemed this wouldn't work. This book simply wanted me to kill and then eat whoever I kill. But I want to survive, I have to. Jacob's heart turned cold. I started to understand why you called cursed immortality. Jacob commented coldly before he closed the book with a thought. He didn't want to see that maniac laughing. The things I have to do for a living from now on. Jacob sighed softly as he walked beside the table where everything was ready. He strengthened his resolve, pulled the cold container toward himself, and opened the clay-like seal before removing the cubic meter container's top. The moment the top was removed, a potent smell filled the room, making Jacob almost faint. He saw a thick dark purple liquid like jelly. I have to drink this. Jacob fell into despair, but his hunger was getting stronger and stronger, and he knew he didn't have time. Damn it all. He randomly picked those dry plants and threw them inside the container. Since the book didn't instruct him about the order, then it clearly means he can just throw them randomly. One by one, he emptied those powder bottles as well. After everything was floating in the container, he picked up a long metal spoon-like piece of equipment and stirred the entire mixer. It caused a massive reaction as those plants melted, and the jelly-like bone marrow started to boil mysteriously, and an even more potent smell rose with pinkish smoke. However, Jacob's eyes were turned bloodshot as he endured the smell. His hunger had finally reached its peak and was far more substantial than the first or second time. He finally realized that the book was really speaking the truth, and at this moment, he really would kill anyone just to quench this hunger. I can't take it anymore. Jacob threw the spoon to the table, picked up the container, and drank without even caring about the smell or taste or if it was hot or cold. He just wanted that deadly hunger to go away. The mixture was strikingly cold despite the smoke and its taste. He just can't describe incontrarily that jerky was far more scrumptious than this. Within a minute, he drank the whole container without dropping or leaving any single drop. Chapter 31 I'm already cursed. Jacob controlled his urge to vomit everything out. He knew if he did, he might have to butcher someone in this room. Drinking a mixture of bone marrow was far better than eating some humanoid monster. He wasn't ready for this. Jacob somehow reached the wooden chair and sat down. He was feeling a freezing sensation in his stomach, and it was slowly reaching every part of his body. He could even hear his extremely fast heartbeat. Furthermore, the deadly hunger was finally decreasing, and for some reason, he was enjoying the cold sensation as his eyes started to turn drowsy. He just wanted to sleep all of a sudden despite just waking up, and in the end, he fell into a deep sleep on the chair in that comfortable feeling. At this moment, abruptly, hair grew on Jacob's bald head at an astronomical pace, while his bony body, which looked like a dry skeleton, started to slowly bulk. The transformation has begun. After some unknown time, Jacob's eyelids trembled slightly before he slowly opened his eyes, filled with confusion as he quickly remembered he fell into sudden sleep out of the blue. My hunger has really reduced to a bearable degree, but it's still there. I can feel it, and according to that cursed book, it will only last a few weeks before it will come back even stronger. Jacob mumbled helplessly. Suddenly, Jacob's eyes landed on his hands, and he was astonished because his bony hands were long gone, and mass had already appeared. Although it was only a minimum, the change was obvious. His skin has also turned pale from yellowish. Jacob quickly stood up with a hint of excitement, and suddenly he felt silk-like threads feel on his shoulder. He couldn't help but touch the silky threads. My hair has grown so big. Jacob was astonished, and when he saw his long hair, which had reached his shoulder, it was completely silver-white. An unusual color, Jacob mumbled. He quickly stood in front of the glass cell and saw his vague reflection. He was shocked because before, he was bony, and now he was skinny. Although it was a small change, however, for Jacob, it was quite obvious. Furthermore, his previous 1.6-meter height had also changed. He was now 1.7 meters tall and could feel much stronger than his previous weak self. This is only the result of a 20% transformation, and as I inject heart blood, the transformation will continue. Doesn't this mean I can become strong just by eating and sleeping? Jacob's heartbeat raised suddenly just thinking about it, and he felt it was all worth it. Suddenly, his ears twitched slightly as he heard a heartbeat from behind. My hearing has also grown. Jacob was thrilled because he knew human hearing couldn't be this strong. This is truly magical. Jacob quickly calmed down and mused. Although my change is quite great and unnatural, I have to keep eating high-grade nutrition, or that hunger will come back stronger. I have to leave this place as soon as possible. Since this base is in some forest, there might be animals I can hunt with pighead strength. But this guy is strange. He didn't have any heartbeat, like he was dead. This world is just too damn strange. Well, I don't care as long as I can use him. It's far better than eating him. This guy is like a strong killing machine. Using him properly will bode significant results. But I have to deal with those traps set by that blind shit. And only he knew the safe passage. Jacob's eyes turned cold as he turned around and looked toward Decker's cell, filled with light blue liquid, which almost turned transparent. He knew Decker was the key if he wanted to go outside, and he couldn't let Pighead waste his strength just to cross some traps. It would affect his plans. I know you're awake. Let's have another chat, Jacob said impassively. He could now feel the slightest change in Decker's heartbeat, just like Decker before. Jacob released Decker, who remained stoic. You can speak freely. Jacob again sat in his chair. Decker said in his husky voice, just give up, human. I will never tell you anything. How stubborn. Jacob chuckled coldly. But I already know about you, Decker Shaw. Decker's expression finally changed when he heard his full name. He quickly guessed Jacob had already got his hands on his hidden journal, which also meant he got the treasure book he stole right under the giants. Bastard. Bastard. Cursed you. He started to utter in a mad frenzy. How could he endure when the fruit of his labor was eaten by the other? He was now the enemy of a rarer race just because of that book, but now it would benefit someone else while he took all the blame and hate. Jacob was quite pleased with Decker's expressions and said coldly, just give up and tell me everything I want to know, and I might leave you alone. What do you think? Although he got some information from Decker's journal, it wasn't enough and was too vague. Decker was a veteran who had managed to pull the wool on the giant's eyes and escaped alive, and he could still get his hands on all those materials and advanced equipment, despite the giants on his tail. This alone proved his survival abilities and contacts, and Jacob wanted that all. However, Decker madly replied, his voice full of hatred. You can go fuck yourself, you thievish bastard. You took everything from me. I was so close. So close. But you human ruined it all. I'll curse. You'll die in the same way as me, full of despair and bitterness. Jacob sighed heavily, and his expression turned extremely icy as he said, with no hint of emotions, I'm afraid I'm already cursed. Chapter 32 Opening the Door. 1. Die. 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 Decker had lost his mind after he found out Jacob had got his everything, even his precious life work. Shut up. Jacob was irritated by Decker's maniacal behavior, and he knew Decker was a hopeless case and he was on his own. But he still had Decker's journal and only read a fraction. He might find something useful, and he also had 2 new books, which were even more helpful than Decker's journal. Decker's stoic face appeared again after Jacob made him shut up, but his thoughts were in a mess and despair. Jacob looked at Pighead, who seemed somewhat drained. He finally remembered he had forgotten to put him in that blue liquid, or he didn't let him drink it. Pighead, go drink 2 buckets of blue liquid. He also understood why Decker gave such a command to Pighead. It seems Pighead's body is somehow special. Although he didn't have a heartbeat or breathing, he could understand and observe fine. I have to look into it after I get a chance, Jacob mused. However, his expression changed when he saw Pighead draw a bucket of extremely light blue liquid, almost transparent. He knew something was amiss and quickly strode there. When he looked into the well, his heart turned cold because he could see the bottom, and from his estimate, only 5 gallons worth of liquid was left, but it was almost transparent. The well was 15 cubic meters in diameter and 20 meter deep. It was divided into 3 portions of 5 meters with a metallic wall. He quickly opened the next lid, saw the green liquid, and sighed in relief because it was more than half filled, and he couldn't see the bottom of it, and it still didn't lose its color. As for the last portion, it was only 4 to 5 meters filled with dark liquid. The blue liquid is about to end, while the green one is still more than half full, and the black one is the most potent one of all of them. I can't use them recklessly anymore, and Pighead needed them to sustain himself. Fuck, one problem after another. Jacob cursed under his breath. He had almost forgotten Decker was using these liquids for God knows when, and they were something exhaustible. Blue was the weakest of these three liquids, followed by green and then black. He could see a large hole at the bottom in the blue liquid portion, and he knew the liquid entered the cells from there and again exited back. He even felt nauseated when he thought about how this liquid was used again and again while everyone was soaking in it. Let's just hope I won't need to enter that cell anymore. Jacob sighed bitterly. Pighead was also done with his meal, and finally started recovering. This blue liquid could only last a week, and then I have to let him drink the green one, which might take a year or two to finish. Which means I have to leave this place within 2 or 3 years. Jacob quickly calculated. But first, I have to reach the outside and then think further after seeing just how deep we're in the forest. Jacob nodded and commanded, "Pighead, carry him and follow me." Pighead grabbed Decker's head from his palm, picked him up like some rage doll, and followed Jacob, who was making his way toward the staircase. I'm finally going out. Jacob felt a little bit of excitement and reminiscence when he thought about how he was reincarnated and opened his eye in this room and experienced hell before finally turning things around and even getting a cursed book that promised him immortality. It all just like a bad yet pleasing dream. He sighed as he ascended the stairs barefoot. He was still wearing a cape and wrapping another cape around his waist. Decker's boots were too short for him, and he also didn't have any clothes of his size, so he could only do with this for now. Jacob finally reached the steel door, put his hand on the handle, and breathed deeply before he twisted it open. A creaking sound rang in the deadly silence when the door was opened inwardly. A pitch-black corridor appeared, which looked bottomless abyss. Jacob had already carried a small lamp that Decker had bought. It was lit in white light. The pathway was almost illuminated, but Jacob still didn't see the end of it. Just which shithole did you dig this room in? Jacob couldn't help but exclaim. Put him here. Pighead does as he said and put stoic Decker right on the doorstep center. Oh, stubborn little shit, just like before, listen carefully. You're standing in the center of the hidden room's door, and we're standing right at the pathway's edge, which leads to the outside. Start walking on the safe route. Jacob knows Decker can't control his thoughts, not right now, since he had suffered a huge mental blow. Decker took a step and slowly walked. Follow his every footstep, and if he stopped, then stop. He ordered Pighead as he handed the lamp to him as well. Pighead followed suit, and Jacob followed right behind Pighead's footsteps. Decker walked straight without changing directions, and Jacob carefully observed the surroundings. This was an underground cave naturally formed, and Decker chose this as his hidden base. I have to admit, this is an ideal place if someone wants to hide, Jacob felt glorified. In the end, no trap came their way as Decker finally reached the end. There was a stone wall. Jacob frowned. Could it be there aren't any traps? But how could it be this guy would not compromise his safety? He saw Decker move toward the right side of the wall and crouch down. Jacob's eyes finally landed on a small stone lever at the right corner of the stone wall. Chapter 33 Opening the Door. 2. However, Jacob's expression changed when he saw Decker's hand tremble when he touched the stone lever. He barked. Stop him. With his big hand, Pighead instantly reacted and pulled Decker back from his head and nearly crashed it. Jacob sighed in relief and uttered coldly, I knew something was not right since you didn't try to put any resistance, just like last time. So, that lever is the trap, or it's a trap, as well as the key to opening this door. Since you're able to reach it so easily, this also confirmed my theory, and when you wanted to trigger the trap, the parasite gem stopped you. Heh, you're a schemer, little Deck. Just speak and let it out. Decker's stoic expression turned into a maniac, and he roared, Human, no matter what, you can never leave this place and die. When all those nutrition liquids run out, you will die here. Ha ha ha, die. Jacob sighed. He knew very well how it felt if someone stole your hard work right under your nose and then profited from that work big time. Furthermore, Decker had not only lost his life works to Jacob, but he also lost a journal that guaranteed immortality. This kind of hatred was nothing compared to anything. It was far deeper than killing one father or mother. That's why Decker will do anything to kill Jacob, even if it costs him his life. It will all be worth it if he can take Jacob down with him. You're an idiot. Since you give me clues, this is enough for me to figure it out. Let me see. Jacob's eyes were glued to Decker's twisted face. He said, since it's a lever, it can move up or down or even can be turned around, and you try to move it, which means it would be a disaster if I try to move it, right? Decker's right eye twitched slightly at this moment, and Jacob's smile widened. So I only have two options now, either put it out or push it inside like a button, and I know someone like you makes it even trickier, so let's go with the first option. Decker's expression finally changed, and he barked madly. You bastard! How did you find out? Just why can't you die? It was just as Jacob described. Decker had set this lever up as a gigantic trap, and he knew anyone would try to move it, and it would be their doom at that time. He even calculated that anyone who can reach this place will be someone from the inside and want to escape, so their mind would be in a mess and all they could think about would be freedom, and this would greatly raise their chances of triggering the trap. But Jacob saw through it, and how could he not? He was someone in the weapon business, and traps were also a part of the weapon industry for a long time. How could this measly mind trap fool Jacob, who can make a trap far deadlier than this? I said you're an idiot, so act like one. There's no need for you to play smart. You can never escape my grasp, said Jacob coldly. He spun around and walked back to the staircase and put the metal door in front of him, and after making sure he was completely covered, he shouted, Pig head, pull that stone lever out. Bam. Thereupon, he slammed the door shut. Although he was confident in this theory, he won't be so brave as to confirm it himself when he had two meat shields. However, nothing happened after waiting for a while, and the cave remained silent. Jacob smiled in victory, opened the door, and reached Pighead and Decker's position again. He saw a crack had appeared right in the center of that stone wall, and he said with a hint of anticipation, Little Deck, if it's safe to open the wall, then move, and if it isn't, then remain still. Decker's expression filled with despair and unwillingness, but he was helpless, and his leg moved as he cursed Jacob. Bastard human, you'll die when just you wait. We have to see about it. Jacob chuckled coldly and completely ignored Decker's curses and said to Pighead, Open it. Pighead pushed the stone wall, and with the slightest effort, it was completely opened outward like two stone doors. Jacob finally saw just 10 meters away, a stone ladder was going upward, and his heart was filled with ecstasy, but he didn't make any rash move. He again looked at Decker and said with a smile, Little Deck, there's a stone ladder. If it's safe, move, and if there are traps, remain standing. Decker's entire body trembled as if he wanted to move, but he wasn't strong enough to overpower the parasite gem. Heh, stop, it just started, and I'm looking forward to more information. Jacob chucked in a mocking tone, which made Decker even madder. Tell me if the stone ladder is the trap. If yes, move, and if no, remain standing. Is the floor have any trapdoor? If does a weight trap? Is step number 3 safe? Is step number 9? Is there a stone door or anything hiding the exit? Any sense type trap? Decker felt like his mind was spinning. Jacob had asked so many questions about traps. Actually, he had never heard about some of them, and he suddenly remembered what Jacob had told him when they spoke the first time. Could he be a reincarnated person? An icy chill ran down Decker's spine with just the thought of it. But he quickly threw that thought away from his head because it was just too unrealistic. But he couldn't suppress it completely because Jacob was just too sharp for a weak human, and he could easily see through a veteran like him despite his young age. Only someone who had gone through all these experiences could know this much and know how to deal with it, and Jacob was just too much of an anomaly. Chapter 34 Opening the Door. 3. Deep inside lush woods. The mossy forest floor suddenly trembled before a square crack appeared, and it lifted in the air before it the air and then thrown to the side, and a 3 square meter deep dark hole appeared in the mossy floor. Thereupon, a pig head suddenly popped up from the dark hole, followed by its humanoid burly body, and after him appeared a skinny youth with a face full of ecstasy. The youth looked around with great curiosity and took deep breaths. He sighed and said, "I'm finally out, ha ha ha." His voice was filled with thriller and relief. This youth was obviously Jacob. After his long interrogation process, he could finally find the actual and safe passage outside. Jacob looked down and felt the soft yet wet mossy floor. A delightful cold sensation was running all over his feet. He looked around and saw the hidden passage was completely surrounded by towering trees, and it was extremely hard to tell there was a hidden cave there. He mumbled, "That bastard really knows how to choose a hiding spot." No one could tell this part of the ground was a hoax, and underneath it was a whole cave. Even if they find it, they would be quite lucky if they were able to escape those traps. Jacob really admired Decker's work and his meticulous way of doing things. He looked up and saw the large crowns of trees had completely covered the sunlight, and only some beams of yellow light were visible. The air here is quite chilly, and according to Decker's journal, this place is called Rainy Mountain Ranges, which means I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I don't have a map nor that bastard left any clues about this place. If rain is common here, then I can't wander around aimlessly, or I might lose my way. Since I now know how to exit the hidden base, I should first read those 2 books, and there isn't any hurry as well. As for my hunger problem. Jacob's eyes shimmered with coldness and resolved when he thought at this point. He knew he had to get his hand dirty if he wanted to survive and archive immortality. I won't have to suppress my demon anymore. A ferocious glint flashed past Jacob's eyes as he looked at the dark hole. "Let's go back," he said to Pighead, and entered the hole again. After they both enter the hidden base again, Jacob carefully closes the passage again and goes back to his room with listless Decker. After Jacob gained all the information with his words game, Decker knew it was meaningless to struggle, and he was just waiting for his death. He had completely given up on resistance, but if Jacob asked him about his experience or information, he would still stubbornly refuse because it would make things less difficult for Jacob. Albeit, he'll die. He would make sure Jacob's journey throughout the Rainy Mountain Ranges cannot be easy because he knew just how dangerous this mountain range was if someone didn't know the safe routes or if they were someone as weak as a human. Jacob locked Decker in a glass cell again, used the depleted blue nutrition liquid, and left Pighead to rest in his own cell while using a green nutrition liquid. After this short trip, he clearly understood just how important Pighead was to him, and without him, he might have become Decker's suicidal attempt victim. That's why he decided to use the higher-grade liquid this time, and he knew this liquid was special since it also transformed into a hibernation liquid after its healing effect from exhaustion. Now, I should start memorizing the contents of those 2 books as soon as possible, and I should start with Advanced Herbology of Rare and Rarer Plants and Plant Lore since I'm in a forest and plants can be more dangerous than animals if you don't know it's poisonous or not. These mountain ranges are between the boundary of uncommon and rare races regions, which means there won't be any rarer type plants here, and even if there are, the chances are extremely low. Jacob mused before he took the Advanced Herbology of Rare and Rarer Plants and Plant Lore, which wasn't 6 inches thick, and engrossed himself in it. Before long, Jacob was completely immersed in that book with a fascinated look on his face. Although he wasn't a botanist, he had researched many herbs because of his obsession. This book was filled with inoffensive and toxic plants. The more Jacob read, the more he felt these plants were really terrified. Iron pike vine. Rare rank. Danger level. High. Ability. Able to penetrate iron with its pike-like iron vines. Weakness. Water. Smoky flower. Uncommon rank. Danger level. Intermediate. Ability. Produce a white smoke-like flora in the air which is highly hallucinating. Its range is 1 meter. Weakness. Water and fire. Blue pine tree. Jacob read one after one plant's information, and he was somewhat shocked because his memory was quite good, and he only needed to read the information 3 or 4 times before he completely memorized it word by word. Is it also the effect of my new heart? Jacob was quite happy and continued to read. Just like that, an unknown time passed, and Jacob remained engrossed in his reading. Jacob also noticed the special traits of his new body. Foremost, he can awake for a very long time. Although he didn't know the exact duration, he knew it would be around 3 or 4 days. Second, he only needed 1 hour of sleep to recover his exhausted mental strength. Third, one jerky lasted for 3 days before he felt his hunger reaching his bearable limit. However, he could feel the duration was getting lower and lower, and he would soon meet the deadline of the second deadly hunger attack. So, to ensure it won't happen, he began preparing himself. Prepared to unleash the demon. Chapter 35. You're a devil. On this day, outside the hidden cave room, just below the stone ladder leading to the outside forest, Jacob could be seen assembling a metal structure made with different scrap parts. There was a large container with a lid with a slim long twisted metal tube attached to it, and another container connected to the other end of this metal tube. Furthermore, there was a large collection of different dry woods on the other side. Jacob was naturally prepared to collect his first heart essence with a distillation process described by cursed Immortality. Although his crude self-created equipment for the distillation process can't be compared with the modern technology of his world, they were enough to serve their purpose. As for who was going to become his first target for heart and blood, it will Decker. Firstly, Jacob had a deep grudge against Decker for what he did. Second, Decker was from a rare race, which makes his heart essence more potent than any uncommon species. Third, he didn't know just what animals resided in this vast mountain range, and he didn't feel secure going out hunting while constantly being afraid of his hunger and the unknown when he had a source beside him. Fourth, he knows as long as his body can become strong enough to sustain his heart, he'll get superhuman strength, and by taking this first step, he'll get stronger. Lastly, the resources in Decker's hideout were limited, and Decker was no longer useful besides his information value, and he was only burning those precious color liquids, so it was best to get rid of him. Furthermore, Jacob didn't want to torture Decker anymore. He was afraid Decker might lose his nutritional value. As for his intricacy with killing, Jacob had long prepared himself for this since he couldn't live without killing in this world which was just too damn cruel, and if he still didn't use his inner talent, he could just forget about living here and obtain immortality. After Jacob made crude distillation equipment with the change of a furnace-type reboiler since he needed at least 1000 Celsius. Decker's secret hideout was a lab, and he found some equipment he could use to make this crude setup easily there, which saved him from a lot of trouble. After making sure that it was airtight and testing it once, he nodded in satisfaction before making his way back toward where Decker was held. My hunger is becoming worse and worse, and I only have 2 or 3 days before it reaches its peak. I need to start today. Jacob mumbled as he opened the door of the secret room. There wasn't any change in the room. Only the table had been modified. There were 2 holes on each side of the table's center edges. They were connected with another 2 metal tubes, and 2 containers were below them. Furthermore, deep carvings on the table edges formed a pathway leading to the 2 holds. Jacob had carefully crafted this table to collect flowing blood without wasting it. His forging skills and advanced knowledge were coming in handy. Besides the table, there wasn't any change here. Decker had been floating in green liquid for a week now, and Pighead as well after collecting all those woods. Jacob stood in front of Decker's glass cell and calmly looked at him for a long time as if he was readying himself for what he was about to do. Sigh. Jacob sighed softly before he emptied the glass cell, and dripping Decker appeared. Do you know what I'm about to do? Jacob coolly asked as he had unrestrained Decker's mouth. Heh, does it matter? Decker sneered coldly. Although he didn't know what Jacob was about to do with him this time, he was ready for anything. You're an annoying bastard, do you know that? Jacob scoffed. Follow me and lay down to your favorite table where you killed Lord knows how many. Decker coldly chucked as he followed Jacob's lead and slowly lay down at the center of the new table with lots of deep cravings. What, are you finally going to torture me? Just don't disappoint me, Decker coolly said as he showed his beastly teeth. Jacob chuckled coldly. As much as I want to, it might damage my premium quality rare meat, so you're going off easily. Decker's expression finally changed as he said with disbelief, You want to eat me? Jacob coolly replied, Well, it's not like I have any other choice. Besides, I had read in Rare and Rarer Beast Encyclopedia that rare goblin wolf is quite a delicacy on the mainland, and it's directly related to your goblin race, so it made me quite curious about what an imp goblin tastes like. Decker felt a chill run down his spine as Jacob's voice sounded like the devil. You bastard dare to compare me with livestock. Are you not afraid of retribution after thinking about eating an intelligent life form? Even I won't stoop to such a level. Jacob merely chuckled and said, I already said I have no choice now. Either I eat you or risk my life out there and even die from hunger. Besides, as long as it's not a fellow human. In my eyes, you are an intelligent camel that can be slaughtered in need of water or its meat. Decker felt Jacob's voice was exempt from any emotions, and suddenly felt a cold sensation gripping his wrist as Jacob's devil-like voice sounded again. Although I never killed any human in my life before, it doesn't mean I never slaughter animals to suppress my urge to kill. Don't worry. You'll die of blood loss without any pain or suffering. Jacob slightly rubbed Decker's wrists with a strange, twisted smile on his face. I know every signal nerve in the human body, and your body isn't much different from a human as well. It's just that I don't know if I would become addicted to it. Oh well, I don't care anymore. Just as Jacob's icy voice faded, he picked up the scalpel-like knife he had ready beforehand. You'll die like me. You'll be eaten alive in these mountains. Not even your bones will be left. Decker started to curse manically, as he couldn't resist or move his body. Although Decker wasn't afraid of death, he was afraid of being eaten by his enemy. Just the thought of it gave him endless nauseous and hate. He never thought Jacob would be so cruel. Jacob said with a hint of mockery, This is the exact reason I'm doing it, and you can only blame yourself for this. As for being eaten alive by others, I don't know about that, but you, on the hand, will be going to turn into a nice stew tonight. Jacob carefully made a deep cut on Decker's wrist as red blood gushed out and placed it right above the hole. As Jacob made the cut, knowing that he was about to kill Decker, he felt a delightful chill over his body, making his fine hair stand and tremble in excitement as he breathed heavily. Don't move, Jacob said as he saw Decker was again trying to struggle, but he didn't care since, at any rate, he'll die today in this way or another. He moved toward Decker's other wrist and again made another deep cut on his wrist and placed it carefully on the hole. He looked exactly like a serial killer who had done this before many times with an exact, twisted, satisfied smile on his face. Bastard, you'll never escape the retribution. One day, someone else will do even worse to you. Decker continued to curse as he felt his body and mind going numb. He knew today was the day he'll die and become someone's dinner, which made him resentful. But alas, there wasn't anything he could do. Jacob completely ignored Decker's curses and calmly sat on the chair as he looked at Decker's flowing blood in the container with a hint of elation. Little by little, the containers started to fill with Decker's blood, and Decker's voice was becoming vaguer and vaguer. After 10 minutes, Decker was on the verge of losing consciousness as he kept mumbling. Why, you're a devil. A minute passed, and Decker's voice completely faded at this moment as his blood flow was also slowing down a lot. Jacob finally closed his eyes as he remembered those last words of Decker, and felt deep satisfaction after knowing he had killed his most hated enemy with his hand. Jacob's eyes finally opened, and the darkness in them had completely faded away, and he exhaled. Just as I thought, I felt nothing but excitement while killing him, and I already want to experience it again. If I continue, I can never stop myself. Jacob smiled coldly the very next moment. Anything to achieve my goal. Now it's time to put you out of your misery. Jacob stood up again, and this time, he slit Decker's throat without hesitation, and more blood flowed on the table, making its way towards those 2 openings. With this, Decker, the first person Jacob saw after reincarnating, was finally dead at Jacob's hands. Chapter 36 Extracting Heart Essence. It was nighttime outside, and the sky seemed clean from any clouds. The ground door leading toward Decker's hideout was currently opened, and smoke rose from it like a chimney. On the underground floor, crude equipment was set up, and the fire was lit underneath the metal container, which had been made into a crude furnace. The red smoke rose from it as the crimson liquid was boiling. Jacob stood there calmly observing as cursed immortality hovered in front of him. He said, "So, Immortica, should I throw the heart inside now and close it?" Jacob was very careful with this task of collecting heart essence. That was why he summoned the cursed immortality to seek its opinion on every single detail. He was also calling it Immortica now, since he didn't like always calling it cursed immortality. He wasn't a chemist in his past life, but he had some very rich experience working with chemicals and active elements because of his profession and research, which was why he was able to build this crude distillation equipment from scratch. Immortica replied in elated words, "Hee, I never thought you would choose the little imp for your first target and abandon your morals so quickly. I'm impressed, and don't call me by that name. I'm cursed immortality." Jacob replied in vexation, "Immortica, can't you just answer my question? Don't you say you can't answer anything besides questions related to the book?" Immortica replied, I can't answer your question, but I didn't say I can't freely give my opinion on other unimportant things. As for the answer to your question, although that thing looked like it would explode at any time since it reached the sufficient temperature, I don't think there's a need to hesitate anymore. Just throw the heart into it and start the distillation after 30 seconds. You only need 100 milliliter of heart essence, so it won't take long even if that thing ends up exploding. Jacob rolled his eyes, even though he knew the equipment was very unstable, and if he closed the lid, then it would become a bomb if it wasn't able to handle the pressure. In the end, he inhaled a warm breath, and the moment a warm bloody heart appeared in his from his infinity pendant. His infinity pendant can not only keep living things alive in it, but I can also keep things fresh, just like the moment they were stored in it, and it was perfect for storing food supplies. It's just that its space was too small for now. Jacob glanced at Decca's heart he extracted this afternoon, and sighed. "You changed my heart once, and now I'm holding your heart. And we're both doing it for immortality. How lamentable." He threw the heart in the boiling blood and sealed the lid as smoke rose from the twisted metal tube and another tube. Jacob waited over 30 seconds before he closed the twisted tube into the second container he prepared for distillation and let the other tube open to release some build-up pressure. Jacob didn't stay close to it because if this thing exploded, he didn't want to be anywhere near it and enter the passage while closing the door. Immortica wrote at this moment, 5 hours should be sufficient if that thing can hold this long, that is. Jacob replied, "I know, but I also have confidence in something I built. It won't explode easily. Besides, the containers I used were all made of special materials from this world, and they were quite tough, so I won't think this much pressure could crack them up. Pity, I won't be here to see the result. But you must remember to inject that heart essence within 6 hours after its extraction or store it inside the infinity pendant, or it will lose its effect, and you will get fewer benefits." Jacob sighed and asked with some concern, "You sure with 15 kg rare meat I got after slaughtering Decca and his heart essence, I'll be able to convert my body up to 50%? What about the hunger? Or if that fellow was poisonous?" The writing changed. "Why are you fretting over it so much? Since you're unwilling to eat that guy's head, then it should help you about 45% to rebuild your body. And this Tier 3 heart essence will also convert your immortal mark into cursed mark up to 3% completion from 1% completion. As for your poison complaint, do you think you can be poisoned by a Tier 3 species meat after condensing a mutated immortal mark? Stop being a worrywart. Look at the bright side. Your hunger problem will not be accrued for at least 2 years after this. And in the meantime, just hunt some other races outside there. It's time for you to leave this turtle shell. Let me see the liveliness of the outside world." Jacob scoffed. "You just wanted to see me kill others, right? So what if I am? Don't forget, without sacrifices, there won't be any gains, and it's not like you don't enjoy it yourself. I'm a perfect fit for you, so stop projecting and suppressing your impulses. It will only get you killed by others. I'll do what I want. You're just a book, so act like one and vanish." Jacob sneered coldly before he closed the cursed immortality. He didn't want to read more of this book's sarcastic remarks and preaching about killing. Although it said nothing wrong, Jacob didn't want to be completely controlled and indulged in his inner impulses, or he would become a mindless killer. Even if he enjoyed that feeling, this doesn't change the fact that he had rich life experience and knew what kind of result these nefarious urges would bring. I could suppress it in my whole past life, so controlling it in this life should not be a problem for me, either. Chapter 37 Position Revealed. A couple of miles away from Decker's hideout in rainy mountain ranges. It was already dawn, and the sky was turning bright, but dark clouds were also gathering over the mountain range. Inside a large cave, two colossal figures were sitting around a bonfire while a large, unknown animal was currently skewered on top of the fire. These figures were at least 2.7 meters tall, even while sitting. One could only imagine their heights when they were standing. Brother Aaron, we've been searching for weeks in this vast mountain range, but we still didn't find any trace of that thievish goblin. Do you think that Bronze Goblin is tricking us and wasting our time for the reward? The person with a husky voice spoke with uncertainty. In reply, Aaron said in his heavy voice, I don't think so. Goblin's race knows what happened to the Imp Goblin tribe after their tribesmen dared to double-cross us, so I don't think they would dare to try anything funny anymore despite their greedy and shrewd nature. As for this Bronze Goblin, I have already investigated him before following him here. He held some deep grudge against the Imp Goblin tribe, so he didn't have any reason to court death, and he had some ability in tracking, so he's our best choice right now. At least it's far better than searching in the dark. Just keep your patient, Brother Montel. Montel sighed and said with a hint of hate in his husky voice, It's not like I'm impatient, but I can't forget how that little thief made a fool of our race and stole something we worked so hard to find, and our brethren sacrificed their lives to get. He even poisoned 15 men to death, including my little brother. I would never rest until I skin that bastard alive. I know how you feel, but you can't let your judgment be clouded by hate, or that bastard might escape. Before Aaron could complete his sentence, he came to an abrupt stop as he coldly turned toward the entrance of the cave. These were not worried about any ambush since there weren't any creatures in this mountain range that could pose any threat to them. Montel also sensed something as he also narrowed his green eyes toward the entrance. At this moment, a cloaked figure of 1.4 meters in height could be seen running toward those two giants. Aaron sternly said at this moment, You better have a good reason to disturb our meal, little ant. The cloaked person completely ignored those pairs of icy eyes and hastily said, My lords, I think I found the hideout of that thievish imp. Montel's large green eyes suddenly shimmered in a sharp glint as he blurted, Where? Last morning, when I was scouting 2 miles in the east, I saw smoke rising from the far northeast, but it only remained for 10 minutes, and before I could pinpoint the exact position, the smoke vanished because of the humidity here. All traces were gone. The cloaked person replied truthfully. Aaron cussed. Are you certain this was the little bastard? It could be a hunter, and I don't think that astute little shit will make this kind of rookie mistake. I also thought about it, but then there were a few hunters who wanted to come into these deep parts of the rainy mountain ranges where toxic beasts reside. Furthermore, just last night, when I was investigating the suspicious area, a strange smell suddenly appeared. After following that scent, I found its source, and it was coming from an underground hole. But I didn't dare to investigate the area around that hole. I was worried about traps or being found out, so I left a mark over there and came straight here to report. I think it's that imp bastard, and he might be doing some sort of experiment, but he never would have thought we were already here on his tail and overlooked this small detail, making a huge mistake on his own. The cloaked person's voice was filled with coldness and ecstasy. A burst of booming, sharp laughter rang inside the cave at this moment. Montel laughed like a fiend as if Decker's neck was already in his hand. He blurted, led the way. Let me see where that bastard can run this time. However, Aaron shook his big head and said calmly, We should wait for the rain before moving toward that hideout. It still isn't confirmed if this hideout is that little bastard or not. We don't want to startle some old monster who's living here and doing his research. The cloaked person nodded in agreement. Yes, we can hide our footsteps in the rain, and if there's some senior living there, we can pretend we lost our way and accidentally stumbled upon that area. Besides, I don't think anyone would dare to offend two lords, but it is still better to be assured. Montel's excited expression was also sour, hearing this, and fell silent. He can't retort to those two since they were talking about reasons. He said, "Fine. I'll let that bastard keep his insignificant life for some time more." He finally settled down. Aaron nodded in satisfaction and looked toward the cloaked person. "You go there and keep a watch from afar. If there's any movement, don't engage. Observe. The moment the rain starts, come and get us as well. There's not any gap for failure this time, or you can also forget about your life." The cloaked person trembled slightly hearing that cold voice and quickly said before leaving, I understand. Please rest assured I'll do this task carefully." Aaron watched the cloaked person leave the cave and said to Montel, "I told you to be patient and see. We have already received the good news. I hope it was that bastard, not some old eccentric." Montel scoffed coldly and said, "Heh, don't worry. Even if it were an old eccentric, he would not dare to offend our mountain giant race." Chapter 38 Improvements 1. 4 hours before, Decca's hideout was reported. Heh, it didn't blow up, after all. Let's reap the rewards. Jacob mumbled in ecstasy as the wait was finally over. He closed the book in his hand, calmly opened the pathway's door, and saw that his crude equipment was intact. Without further delay, he quickly extinguished the fire, moved toward the collecting container, and opened the lid. A cloud of light red smoke escaped the moment the lid was removed, and a potent smell attacked Jacob's nostrils, making him cough. "Fuck, it better not be as bad as it smells." Jacob mumbled with a noxious expression. After the smoke cleared, Jacob finally saw the crystal red liquid on the bottom. "It should be slightly more than 150 milliliters," Jacob mused as he looked toward the slightly lit outer door space. Probably no animal was attacked by the smell and smoke. Jacob closed the outer door, however. He had no idea a pair of brown beastly eyes scrutinized this entire scene. The only comforting thing was Jacob didn't go outside or pop up his head, so his identity as a human was still safe. After closing the doors outside, he returned to the small room where only Pig Head could be seen in the green liquid cell while the other was empty now. Jacob had already prepared for the injection process beforehand. He had already found a metal syringe which was exactly 100 milliliters. Jacob couldn't ask for more. However, piercing that 8-inch needle directly into his heart and then injecting the heart essence was a completely different matter. If it was any other time or if he had a choice, Jacob would never play his life like this. But since he had already come to this point, there wasn't any need for hesitation anymore. Jacob filled the warm heart essence in the metal syringe. Sigh. In front of this rising hunger, this little bit of suffering should not be a problem. Jacob took a deep breath as he lay down on the floor flat and took deep breaths as he held the metal syringe in his hand. Thereupon, mad resolve filled Jacob's eyes as he clenched the metal syringe and instantly stabbed it meticulously between his ribs, directly into his heart. Jacob's eyes opened wide as he grumbled with clenched teeth and endured. However, something completely unexpected happened before Jacob could pump the heart essence. His heart rate suddenly increased to an abnormal level, and thereafter, the heart essence slowly simmered into his heart from the metal syringe on its own. Jacob was flabbergasted momentarily, but the warm sensation simmering in his heart with pain quickly snapped out of his stupor. That cursed book didn't warn me about this at all. Vexed Jacob muttered through clenched teeth. At this moment, Jacob felt the warm heart essence spreading through his whole body as his eyes suddenly turned bloodshot before a sudden electric shock ran down his whole body. His body was too weak for such endeavors. Jacob let loose a shrill scream before his eyes went upward, and he lost consciousness. 2 hours passed. Jacob finally opened his eyes at this moment with a hint of pain on his face. He sluggishly looked at his chest, saw the metal syringe was still on it, and instantly removed it with a painful groan. What happened? Did I fail? No, I won't be alive if it was the case. My hunger is completely gone. Jacob noticed the astonishing change within himself and got up. The first thing he noticed was his vision point had again gone more elevated, which meant his height had increased again, and this change was much more apparent. He stood in front of the glass cell and saw his vague reflection, which alarmed him. Before, Jacob's constitution was skinny. However, his body was now toned with ripped muscles as they were carved. Furthermore, he was now 6.2 feet tall, and his skin was pale white with a slightly rosy sheen. His silver-white hair had also reached his hips and become more shining and silkier. His face was also covered with a long silver-white beard and mustache. Jacob was completely gobsmacked by this tremendous change, and he felt it was all worth it. He had done anything and got an athletic body just by enduring pain. Moreover, he could also feel a strong power within him and a thought surface in his head and the bloodline scanning scale device. He quickly pressed his thumb on the needle, and a countdown appeared on the black screen. Just like before, a message appeared on the screen. The blood analysis has been completed. Please press the button to check the result. Jacob pressed the first button without any hesitation. Species: human. Sex: male. Age: 23. Strength: rare species. Bloodline: unknown. Note: please purchase a higher grade device to discover about this bloodline and more information. My species is still human, but my blood had turned unknown from fused. Furthermore, my strength is equivalent to the rare species now. I don't know how much that is, but it is far better than 2 weeks from before. I should test it out soon. Jacob mumbled with ecstasy and pressed the next button. Blood analysis report. Unknown bloodline can't be masseur with the current device. Note: please purchase a higher grade device for more accurate blood analysis results and more information. Humph. Jacob scoffed and pressed the last button. Blood lifespan: unknown. Note: please purchase a higher grade device for more accurate blood lifespan results and more accurate information. Jacob's eyes shimmered in astonishment. My lifespan became unknown as well? It seemed that the cursed book didn't lie to me. As long as I follow its instructions, I will get 100 years of youthful life. All the small doubts about cursed immortality completely vanished from Jacob's mind at this moment. He turned off the device and stored it again since it was still useful. I should probably go outside and measure my strength. But first, I have to get rid of this long hair. Jacob was now brimming with confidence and wanted to see how much improvement and benefits this first injection brought him. And it was also the time to look for an exit from these mountain ranges. Chapter 39: Improvements. 2. At this time, while the mountain giants were getting the report about Decker's hideout, Jacob appeared outside the hideout, followed by Pig Head, as he contemplated the cloudy sky. He had already cleaned himself and cut his hair to shoulder length while shaving his beard and mustache. This made Jacob's appearance more apparent from his past skinny self. He had a handsome diamond-shaped face with amber eyes, arched eyebrows, a sharp thin nose, and thin lips. He looked like a handsome youth in his prime. I should slowly scout the area and see if there were any of those rare animals living near here, and then widen my range before leaving on the journey to leave this place. This place is extremely humid, and my water source is about to end, so finding water is my top priority. Jacob mused before he led Pig Head in a random direction, leaving hidden marks on trees, so they could not forget their way back. The hideout was currently on a high mountain that was filled with greenery, and it wasn't far from the mountain peak, just a few miles away. Furthermore, the temperature here can drop quite a lot at nighttime, and many poisonous animals, bugs, and other dangerous creatures roam in this part of the rainy mountain ranges. It was extremely large since it was between 2 extensive regions of zodiac plains, and if one didn't know about the safe passages, one could roam there aimlessly for years and might die from dehydration, cold, or being eaten by some vicious animal. Jacob only wore crude clothes, and he was barefoot because Decker didn't have any clothes or shoes of his size. He looked just like a wild barbarian at this moment. While Pig Head only had his waist covered and was even more exposed than Jacob, that listless pig brain seemed to feel nothing. Nonetheless, Jacob also felt he had become quite resilient after the recent changes in his body. Not only did he not feel discomfort walking barefoot or any pain, he felt like he was walking on a soft surface. His body felt extremely light, and he also didn't feel any heat or cold right now. Everything was normal for him, but he knew this was all because of the first injection, since he knew how it felt walking like this here before the injection. Follow me closely. Jacob's eyes shimmered with expectation. Let's see how fast I can run. Thereupon, Jacob sprang into action, and he ran at full speed. He was shocked when he felt just how fast he was going right now, and he had this feeling he could go faster. My speed should be between 60 kilometers per hour to 70 kilometers per hour, and if I gave it my all, it could probably climb up to 80 kilometers per hour, which is almost impossible for a human. Moreover, my body is still not completely compatible with my heart. Since I still didn't eat the rare meat, I might be at 30% or 35% compatible, and with each injection, my heart will become strong, and my body will follow suit. According to Immortality, with each 10% progress with my cursed heart, my body will transform again. Jacob's eyes shone with expectation and elation. He never thought he would get this power with a mere injection, and he was already beaming with confidence and more eager to complete the process. Jacob turned around to see Pig Head and was astonished when he saw the guy was only 1 meter away from him, and he was keeping up with his speed, breaking no sweat. Just who is this guy, and how did Decker get his hand on him and enslave him? I should probably start examining Decker's journal as well, Jacob mused as he stopped wasting his energy. Although he can run fast, he could feel superficial fatigue from a 30-second full-speed run. Speed was not a problem, but how should I measure my strength? Jacob mused as he looked around, and his eyes landed on a mossy boulder, and his eyes lit up. He galloped to the boulder and tried to lift it. This boulder was 3 meters in diameter and was probably 250 kilograms to 300 kilograms in weight. Humph! Jacob grunted coldly before blood vines stirred all over his body as the boulder trembled. Thereupon, Jacob slowly lifted it over his head and then threw it back to the ground, making the ground shake slightly. Jacob breathed for a moment and smiled in satisfaction. Hee, with my speed and this strength, I can probably throw quick, powerful punches and shatter rocks. So, this is the strength of a rare species. I should start practicing my kickboxing with this body and get the hang of it before moving to those other disciplines I learn that claim to prolong life but do nothing, but they are deadly fighting styles. Jacob made his plan and used his knowledge from his past life to become stronger. Especially the fighting styles he learned in his youth when he earned money by fighting in underground rings, which also helped him to suppress his urges. And this was his biggest source of income, which he used to study and pay his tuition with. Some fighting styles he learned in his old age, but not for fighting but for the sake of prolonging his life, and he didn't know how to use them in fighting, and most of them were incomplete. But he had ample experience with army boxing, Muay Thai, Aikido, and street fighting. All in all, he knew how to use his arms and legs like deadly weapons, so it wasn't a problem for him to get back to his former self in a short period. Let's see if we could find one of those beasts described in that book before the rain, and if we're lucky, I might be able to inject the second heart essence soon. Jacob's confidence soared after crudely measuring his strength. However, he didn't know that someone had just reached his hideout and was monitoring it right now. Chapter 40: Fighting the Arrow-tailed Jaguar. Over 10 miles away from the hideout, Jacob and Pig Head were hiding behind the shade of a large tree, and Jacob was peering from the side with his cold eyes without making any extensive movement. 50 meters from the enormous tree, a 2.2-meter animal was resting under it without fear of anything attacking it. Its color was a tan with an orange hue, and its underbelly was white. There were dark spots consisting of solid black markings on its undersides and hollow black circles on its back. It has large teeth, large eyes, four muscular legs, and a long unusual arrow-shaped tail. Jacob's eyes shimmered with astonishment. That's an arrow-tailed jaguar. One of the strongest uncommon species. But its strength is virtually closer to a rare species, and it can fight toe-to-toe with those rare animals known as beasts. I don't know if I'm lucky or unlucky to encounter such a vicious animal. Even in my old world, jaguars were one of the strongest apex predators. Jacob naturally got all this information about arrow-tailed jaguar from the Rare and Rarer Beast Encyclopedia. Although this wasn't a beast, it wasn't far off. In the Rare and Rarer Beast Encyclopedia, any animal that fell in the category of a rare species was known as a beast, and these beasts were as strong as any rare species. Although it's only an uncommon species, as long as it fell under the tier classification of Immortica, it's useful to me. Since that cat didn't bother to hide its presence, that means there aren't any other animals stronger than it in this vicinity, or it could be just that it's dumb. If I just had a rifle, that cat would be regretting in the afterlife right now. Jacob bitterly lamented. Even if he had superhuman strength, he still thought weapons that could shoot projectiles were far more effective in this situation. Nevertheless, since he had already spotted the prey, he won't let it get away, and the sky was already getting darker with dark clouds. It won't be long before the rain starts, and Jacob wants to go back before the rain. Pighead, go and kill that cat for me. Jacob gave a simple command to listless Pighead, standing like a log beside him. Pighead instantly sprang into action after receiving Jacob's command, and without caring about the commotion, he directly launched toward the arrow-tailed jaguar. Fuck, this guy is too simple-minded. What if that cat runs away after seeing your ferocious appearance? Jacob was flabbergasted and cussed. However, nothing like this happened. On the contrary, when the arrow-tailed jaguar sensed the eruption, it was startled for a moment before its beastly eyes locked on the incoming Pighead. It viciously growled in Pighead's direction, showing its big, sharp teeth. It was taking Pighead as an intruder and prey. Thereupon, the arrow-tailed jaguar pranced toward Pighead head-on and leaped at him with two sharp claws in its front. Pighead expressionlessly threw a punch toward arrow-tailed jaguar's head. However, at this moment, the arrow-tail suddenly moved, and the arrow-tailed jaguar maneuvered in the air, completely dodging Pighead's massive punch and clawing at his chest. Jacob's eyes contracted to see this unnatural movement from the arrow-tailed jaguar. However, he had information about these uncommon animals. But the book didn't describe uncommon animals much, like how they hunt or what kind of special trails they have. Just like how this arrow-tailed jaguar's arrow tail can help it maneuver in the air, this insignificant detail can be extremely deadly for someone who didn't know about it beforehand. I should have known better. How could an uncommon species be so easy to deal with? I have been blinded by victory over that brown bastard. And he was just wise, not powerful, while this arrow-tailed jaguar is powerful. It can kill 10 deckers easily. Jacob had an ugly expression on his face as he looked at the claw mark on Pighead's chest, and blood was gushing out non-stop. Although the wounds weren't too deep, it was still deadly if he lost too much blood. He can't afford to lose Pighead right now, not until he exited the forest or if it was absolutely necessary, and definitely not to this uncommon cat. On the other hand, Pighead didn't even notice the claw wound on his chest and again sprang into action. The arrow-tailed jaguar coldly roared and again launched another claw attack, and this time it also wanted to take a bit on Pighead's hairy neck. However, at this moment, before arrow-tailed jaguar could dodge Pighead's punch, its hair stood from its back as if it had sensed something deadly from the side. Now it had to either dodge Pighead's massive punch or the danger for the side since it can't dodge both. However, just this momentary indecision was enough to spell its doom. Pighead's punch connected with its left side jaw, and another punch landed on its right ribs. The arrow-tailed jaguar was sent flying by these two-sided attacks. The second attack was naturally Jacob, who had used his speed and perception to sneak attack the arrow-tailed jaguar just in the nick of time. Kill it, Jacob coldly uttered, without giving the arrow-tailed jaguar any chance of running or recovering from the aftershock. Pighead obliged without expression as it raised its foot and viciously stomped on arrow-tailed jaguar's head, which was still in a daze because of the previous attack. Crack! The crushing sound of someone's skull being crushed rang in the silent vicinity. Jacob coldly looked at the mingle head of the vicious animal, and he said before Pighead could stomp on it again, "Enough, it is already dead. I don't want you to trample on my specimen." Pighead instantly stopped and returned to his listless self.